Hello everyone. I'm just starting to set up the stream. Okay, should be all fine now. Never done this before. Sorry for that. Maybe it works. It should work now. Does it? Okay. Apparently I'm live. Good. Welcome to my little tutorial for Command Ops 2. So here's the intro screen where it shows apparently Russian soldiers, which are not featured in the game, but okay. So welcome to my tutorial stream for Command Ops 2. This time I'll just introduce you to the game a little if you don't know about it. And I shall deal with the scenario I want to play first. So basically the amazing thing about this game, so it's a little weird marketing concept. You get 3 scenarios for free. The first one would be the real tutorial scenario, which has been featured on YouTube time and again, which is basically just the attack of an infantry division, a tank division, an American tank division on a Volksgrenadierregiment, which is later supported by an SS Panther Division. It's quite easy and it's quite fun. It has a high replayability. And the second one is the attack of 2 divisions, one tank division, the Windhund Division, the Greyhound Division, and the 560th Volksgrenadier Division on the trains and the whole battle of the Ardennes from the perspective of these 2 divisions. The third is somewhat weird, but still somehow interesting, because you get the 2nd SS Panzer Division or a bunch of American divisions which are trickling in. I still think you should download those core scenarios, even if you're not interested in spending any money on the game, because they are still, as I said, quite interesting. But you'll have to buy the other scenario packs. These are not all, these are some. This is a mod, for example. To get the mass of the exercises and scenarios. So what I've decided upon is a battle which is featured in the Ride of the Valkyries scenario pack, which deals with the German attack on the Ardennes, and basically the whole Battle of the Bulge, mostly from the German perspective. And I have picked the Elsenborn Ridge scenario because I like it very much. It shows all the different aspects the game has, from battalion and regimental combat to full divisional combat, artillery support, fighting on difficult terrain, having to care about supply and supply routes, as well as city fighting and defending against counterattacks. The tutorial does that as well, but as I said, it has been posted on YouTube before. For example, Tortuga Power did it. Quite an excellent series on the tutorial, and the creators of the game, Panther Studios, Panther Games, sorry, did it as well. So you should definitely check that out. Also, there are quite a few after-action reports, which are quite great. You can find them on the Lock and Load Publishing forums, which is the publisher. So let's stop the ranting or the rambling and go into the scenario itself. So the day is December 16th, 1944 at 0600 hours. We are fighting as the 6. Panzerarmee and playing the 1. SS Panzerkorps. I'm just going to read the scenario briefing. The 1. SS Panzerkorps represented the main effort for the entire Ardennes offensive, with the 12th SS Panzer Division on the right and the 1st SS Panzer Division on the left. The armored Schwerpunkt was to exploit through the gaps forged by the infantry divisions and drive for the Meuse river bridges between and Liège. The Volksgrenadiers were to make the initial breakthrough for the Panzerkorps and open up the Panzerrollbahn for the mechanized forces waiting in reserve along the narrow forest of the Eifel. The 277th Volksgrenadier Division on the right was to open up Rollbahn A und B, which passed through the twin farming towns of Rocherath and Krinkelt, while the 12th Volksgrenadier Division's task was to open up Rollbahn C, the main highway between Losheimer Graben and Bütgenbach. The 3rd Fallschirmjäger-Division would secure Rollbahns D and E along southern flank of 6th Panzerarmee German. The Allied line in this sector was held by the American 19th Infantry Division. Having arrived on the continent only 4 weeks earlier, the 19th lacked combat experience. Despite this, the Checkerboard Division was to prove itself a worthy opponent in the fight to defend the Elsenborn ridge against the German breakthrough. The scenario begins just as the initial German artillery bombardment is lifting. Okay, so you see this little graphic here. We are not going to take control of the 3rd Fallschirmjäger-Division, and we are not taking control of the bulk of those 2 divisions. We will get some of the units. So just a disclaimer, I've played this scenario before. It's quite a few days ago. Yeah, a few weeks, I guess. So I still know a little something, but it's not like I have memorized it. So let's just get into the game. So this is the first screen you'll meet. It shows you different options. I always play with the realistic orders delay because it's challenging and not crazy like the painfully realistic one. I do enjoy it like this because it's still manageable and you don't have to spend hours and hours on planning. The historical weather option is always my preferred option because it's not as random. You get something you can get used to if you replay it, which is always a little bit cheating, but I do enjoy it. The better weather is outright cheating, and the worse weather in this scenario would probably lead to you, well, not gaining a meter of ground, because you will see the weather in this scenario is well, it's winter, it gets dark early, and you'll have lots of fun finding the enemy and not getting too close to him. The reinforcement schedule is on historical. You can set this to either standard or favor Axis, favor allies. The historical one is my preferred because, well, it's historical. You get what the commanders of the time had. The supply schedule is, yeah, I usually don't touch this because it's unfair to set yourself on more supply. It would be an extra challenge to set yourself on less supply. But as the Germans, for example, if you set yourself on extra supply, it's quite easy because you won't have to deal with unavoidable supply problems because, well, you're the Germans in the end of the war. If you have read a book about the Second World War, you will see that, this happened quite a lot. Okay, let's begin the scenario. So, this is going to take a second. Here we go. So, first and foremost, this is not the mandatory arrangement of the different panels. As you can see, you can open and close them the way you want to, and you can move them around. For example, this could be here, and if I close it and open it again, it stays there. This is quite useful because you can arrange the different panels in the way you want. So, I will show you the most important and the less important things too. But let's start with the control panel. There, this is pretty obvious. This is for the game speed. This is the scenario title. This is how long it will last. The weather, one of the most important panels. As you can see, it's night now and moderate fog, which makes the visibility 0 meters, which is frankly terrible for reasons you will see later. You can zoom in the map over here, but you can also use the mouse wheel, of course. You have a mini map over here, which is not too useful because it's fairly easy to get an overview of the situation easier. This is in my opinion, the most important tab, the force display. Yeah, but let's follow the structure down here. This is the tools bar. This is quite excellent because, for example, if you have a motorized unit and you click, let's say we take a motorized unit like this SS Panzer Artillerie so Armored Artillery Battalion. You click here on the on the position, and then, for example, on the objective in Rocherath, and it's going to show you the quickest way and the duration. So it will take 1 hour for the infantry for the armored artillery to move there, which is I think, quite a nice feature. You could pick the shortest part as well, which would be probably, yeah, you won't follow the road, but you follow the terrain. And over here, you have the covered part, so the part where the cover from enemy side is best. So you can see it will move closely to the woods. It's motorized, so it does not have too many alternatives to move through woods. For example, if I took the infantry and I go to non-motorized and I want to go from here to there, the quickest is of course always the road. Oh, hoppla. My girlfriend is texting me. I'm just going to close WhatsApp, sorry. Yeah, that was stupid, sorry. You will see that the shortest way is always the straight way, because infantry can traverse woods. And the most covered would be probably something like, yeah. So, what is even more important is the line of sight views. So, for example, if you can see the height on the terrain like on any other map. The darker parts are the higher ones, and this is the slope, and this would be the lower parts of the map. And you can, let's say we are on this hill, which will hopefully be very important to us very soon, and you want to draw a line down here. As you can see, the visibility is quite terrible now. It would be the dark blue means bad visibility, and it would be light blue if it were good visibility. But you can see like this. I'm pointing on my screen with my finger. Sorry, the graphic next to the line on the left side, which pretty much shows you the terrain movement, the height. For example, here there's a pretty much same height between those two hills, with a gap between it, like a gorge or slope. So this is pretty excellent for checking line of sight from a position. Also, you can just use this, and it would, maybe we can do that if the day comes and the fog goes away. You can see that this would show you all the line of sight visible positions from this position. I never really use the threads thing because I don't see the point of it, but I will show you later. So, if you want to play this game and you want to do it well, I would advise you to start using the German Entscheidungsfindung. So you will plan through your battle on the premise of following a certain scheme, which would consist of firstly assessing your own situation and the situation and desires of your, or orders of your higher ups. And I'm kind of losing myself here. So yeah, this is the orders tab, which is the way you can give orders. For example, if you want to move, you can do it like this. But we will use it more time and again, and so I'm not talking about this. This is your order of battle, as you can see, pretty self-explaining. If I take a unit over myself, for example, there it is, and I give it an order, it will turn pink, which means it is under my direct control. So this is the plan. So the plan views, it's empty now. You will see what it's all about later. The messages tab is quite great because you get all the messages sorted by priority. But I have this little lock up here I always use, which you can, I think I didn't know where it was. No, I'll find it. So, fire support. This is quite interesting if you want to directly control your fire support assets, so your artillery or your rocket launchers or whatever. So if I say like you bombard here, or so that it would turn pink in the order of battle, as you can see, it would be listed here. As you can see, the RT ammo is quite empty, but we'll come to that later. So, yeah, This is pretty much just a list of your fire support assets that are directly under your control, which is quite handy. For example, if you want to zoom in and plan fire, you don't have to scroll back, select the unit, and click again on bombardment, but you can rather just open the fire support tab and give your orders here. As you can see, I'm pressing reattach in the order screen, so it gets reattached to its superior command structure. We will see more about that later. So, briefing. Here you have your site briefing, so every site has its own briefing. I'm going to read this when we start assessing our situation. The reinforcements tab is of course quite important, because there you see what kind of reinforcements you get. For example, we'll receive a Panzer company, so a tank hunter company, as you can see by the NATO symbol. It should be arriving in this day. So you can see sometimes, not in this scenario, but sometimes you get like a specific point in time. Sometimes you get a specific a time frame where it could arrive. So, support tab. A supply tab, sorry. This will show how much supply will arrive during the day. So, you can see the different supply entry points here. So there, from where your supply will be arrive. So you see it's a ground supply, it will arrive by road, and the move type will be wheeled. So it will probably like trucks and cars and so on and so forth. So you can see that we will only supply take in like 40% of our totally needed supply, and that the supply will decrease. So we have to cut our expenses a little. More on that later when we talk about the garrison and regiment base. So this now we come to my favorite screen, the force detail screen, which will show you information about friendly and enemy forces. So basically you have these three tabs are the most important, if I may say that. You have the personnel tab, where it shows the total amount of personnel as 100% and the actual amount, which will almost never be 100%. And if we take casualties, you will see this bar receding and being replaced by a bar colored like this. This will show you how much this unit has lost already. Same for the equipment and the morale. Personnel and equipment should be pretty self-explanatory. So an infantry company losing its men loses its equipment as well. But for example, a tank company losing a tank does not necessarily lose the personnel. For example, if they bail out or survive or something like that. The morale is quite important, because you will a unit without morale will rout or retreat, of course. Will be more likely to retreat if attacked, or if its attack seems to fail. Cohesion means pretty much how stable the integrity of this unit is. And if it drops too harshly, you can probably guess what is gonna happen. The unit will not be as effective in fighting. Cohesion just racks up by fighting and marching, and it needs to be rested away. So you have to take a rest with your units, which pretty much sends them to sleep. More about that later when we give our first orders. Suppression means the unit is under fire, and and it's not as effective anymore if it's under suppression. So for example, if you order an engineer company to blow a bridge, and the enemy attacks this engineer company and suppresses it successfully, it's very likely that the engineer company will not be able to blow up the bridge and the enemy can take it. So you want to keep this value as low as possible. And those four values are pretty much just the unit's stats, if you will. So experience, training, fitness, of course, for the fatigue, aggression and stubbornness for attack and defense. So pretty self-explanatory. Experienced units and trained units fight better than unexperienced and untrained units. Equipment and supply pretty much just means how the unit is equipped. So we see they have 42 infantrymen with Sturmgewehr 44, assault rifles, and 5 Panzerschrecks. And how the unit is transported, so they have infantry carts, like, towed by horses, and then horse-drawn wagons and bicycles, and this is how much ammo they have. So as you can see, they are quite well stocked, with lots of ammunition, especially for the Panzerschreck. Command just shows the commander, which is, in this case, a captain, a Hauptmann, and his stats, which also have an effect on the leader himself, on the unit itself, and the capacity, which I will explain later when giving orders. This one is just which base is supplying it. This is for example, bigger units like the Panzer Corps. A little historical text you can read, so just pause if you want to read this. It's quite interesting, and this is just the log. So, for example, if it gives or receives orders, it will list here, or if it retreats, if it attacks, if it routes. Quite interesting if you want to know the history of your units during the battle. Task edit will be explained when I give my first orders. Task view as well. And the crossing point is not that important right now, because it pretty much shows you information about the crossing points. For example, those are not primed. We will maybe see about that later, but crossing points are not that important in this scenario, so I will probably mention them when I reach them. And this opens or hides all of the tools you have been using before. So, what I would always advise you to do first is turning on the range circles. These circles show you how far the unit can fire, pretty much. So this is the maximum range the unit can fire at, which is only, I guess, 10% effectiveness of fire. I'm not entirely sure about the figures right now. Sorry, I didn't I didn't care about them for too long. So it's not very effective if the unit fires here. This is, of course, green is always anti-personnel weapons, so like machine guns, mortars, rifles, and submachine guns. This means the effective range, of course, it's way smaller. Note that these squares are 1 by 1 kilometer, so you can assess the range, so this is not too far. And this would be the ambush range. In this range, the unit is maximum effective, so if you order your units to lay in ambush, it will fire in this sector. So you can see, like, the red circle would be the anti-tank weapons, in this case the Panzerschrecks and Panzerfausts. So if an enemy tank company gets too close to this unit, it will probably suffer quite badly. Trust me, I've been seeing this many times. I have been making this this error more often than I want to admit here. For example, if you take a look at this anti-tank company, you can see that the effective anti-tank range is pretty extensive. So this unit could fire at almost 1.5 kilometers and would be still 66% effective. Yeah, so we have activated the range. Of course, you can switch between anti-personnel and anti-armored and bombardment range, which would be this blue circle. Quite important is that in this black circle, it's past the minimum range, so you can't bombard, for example, here, because the minimum elevation of the gun will not allow any indirect fire. And this is the maximum range. As you can see, this 10.5 centimeter light field howitzer, leichte Feldhaubitze, has quite a decent range. If we look at, wait a second, where was it? This 21 centimeter mortar, yeah, as you can see, it packs quite a punch on quite long distance, so we will never have to move this unit. But for example, where was this one? This is an anti-tank gun, okay, quite decent as well. But for example, the regimental and divisional artillery of our 277th Infantry Division, yeah, this, for example, if we start to reach Würzfeld, this battalion would be completely nonsensical. We would have to move it forward, as well as these rocket launchers, which have always a quite limited range, so we will have to move them up later on. So what did I miss? Yes, so this would be another quite important thing. This is the recon. Your pretty much your recon shift. So you can see current units which have been spotted which are spotted currently. So we don't see, for example, this units currently, but on the start of the scenario, you always start to see some units, so you have a raw idea where the enemy is stated, and you can plan accordingly. Of course, there are more enemy units on here than those few, but it's just to give you an overview. So current is the units you see right now. Recent means that the unit has been spotted in the last 10 minutes, I suppose. Yeah, 10 minutes. So it has been seen and reconnoitered. Do you say it like this? I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm German. I don't know shit. It's quite useful if you want to have a general overview of your surroundings. So, for example, if a unit disappears, so you have still a grasp of where it was. And this is, of course, all. So every unit that has ever been spotted. If you go to the force detail, you can see the sighting age, which is now current because we've just not yet started the scenario, and its reliability, which is vague. Sorry, I'm just going to check here. One guy's watching. Welcome, whoever that is. And the reliability is quite important. So, for example, if you have an inexperienced grenadier company like this, and it has a bad sight on, for example, let's say a company of stewards, light tanks, it might as well say, oh look, there's a company of Shermans, and that might make you mad a little, because if you think there's a way stronger force, so your units will always mostly exaggerate the forces they spot if they are not sure about it, and this can destroy your planning quite badly. So okay. We will stay away from those fields because I will probably explain them on the fly as well. And I have talked enough, and I have not shown you the cool stuff. Like, let's analyze one of our forces, for example. Let's analyze our division in the north, which would be the 277th Volksgrenadier Division. The short history thing for you. The division contains 2 regiments. The 989, also Grenadierregiment 989, 989, and the Grenadierregiment 990, also Grenadierregiment 990, which both contain 2 battalions and some additional units. So let's start, for example, with the 1st battalion of 989. You can see this battalion HQ, which is this square, and this is the outline of. So to give you a rough field of where this unit, where the men actually are, is in command, as you can see by the green lines, of those units, which would be 2 of the grenadier companies. As I said, main infantry, not very well trained because they are Volksgrenadiere, which is not exactly as bad as the Volkssturm, but still way too old men, not quite well armed actually. They have quite a lot of automatic weapons, but not well trained. Maybe too young, maybe too old, and pretty much. I don't want to say a ragtag force because it's still better than that, but not excellent. Let's call it not excellent. Not like elite SS company. As you can see, they are, as I said, well armed. Sturmgewehr, assault rifles, the first one in the world. Panzerschrecks, which are quite effective against tanks, and then lots of machine guns, 10 machine guns for roughly 100 men. So you have 8 light machine guns, 2 heavy machine guns, EMG, SMG, which is still the same MG, but the German military doctrine is to judge the heaviness of an MG on its purpose. So, for example, this would be an MG with this bipod, and they guess they didn't change. Yeah, this would be an MG on the tripod, for example. As you can see, some guys have a bicycle and mostly horse-drawn wagons. This unit is not bad. It has a combat value of 3, which is decent for an infantry company. We will talk about these combat values when we actually see combat, because they will be quite important. What makes this battalion different from the other battalions is that they have another attachment next to the 3 infantry companies and the regular attachments I will come to later. It has one of the pioneer companies, engineer companies of the division's engineer battalion, which is moved by bicycle, so it's a little faster than the regiments moving on foot, and it has flamethrowers, so those will be quite important. These values will explain themselves later as well. It will be quite decent when we attack in a fortified position or enemy in a town, as well as some mortars, which will not be too strong, but at least it has them, so it can do some long range fire to suppress enemy forces. This would be the mortar platoon of the battalion, which is, as you can see, oh, I should turn on the ranges, which you can see has a small range because they are only light 8 cm mortars, 6 of them infantry support mortars, so suppressing enemies, stopping enemy advances. This is more interesting. This is a very German thing. Infantry guns. The Germans massively used those little 7.5 cm infantry guns because they pack quite a punch. They are light to carry, and actually this one has quite a decent performance against armored targets because it fires high explosive anti-tank shells. We will see about that later. The stream is still active. I'm happy. Yeah, I don't have a second monitor in my barracks, so sorry for that. Yeah, those will be quite effective if assaulting a fortified position. They will give not bombardment, which they could do, but they will mostly fire in direct support of enemy, like of the attacking infantry. The 2nd battalion, of course, has the same amount of forces, pretty much, except the engineer company, 3 infantry companies, one mortar platoon, and 1 infantry gun platoon. So these are the 2 battalions. So the main force, the line fillers, the front formations of this regiment. But the regiment itself, of course, has its own forces as well. So you can see that the regiment has another mortar company, an entire mortar company, with 8 heavy grenade launchers, heavy mortars. As you can see, the range is significantly higher, and they pack more of a punch, and they will be used for indirect support, of course. And they have their own little platoon, which I have never really seen in use because the regimental commanders don't really commit them. More about that later. And as you can see, same as before. So if we look at the next highest level, the division, you can see that the division itself has some units attached as well. It has, for example, these 2 companies. This is a pack company, a Panzer company, and a tank hunter, tank destroyer. As you can see, I've already shown this. It's an anti-tank gun, the Pak 40, with 7.5 cm, quite a decent gun. As you can see, the armor penetration, 133 millimeters. It's quite effective, even though the maximum range, the damage is quite effective, and the maximum range is, let me guess, almost 3,000 meters. So you can still kill a light tank with this. And this force, for example, will be incredibly valuable if we take a higher positions. For example, later on at Hinterbach, where the force can be situated here to overwatch the entire road network and destroy anyone or any tank coming closer, as well as this anti-air company, which will also give great anti-infantry fire support, and the 3,7 cm flak is quite decent against infantry as well. Oops, sorry. And even against like light targets, light vehicles. So these are the direct support units. Of course, we have an artillery regiment of the division, which would be 10.5 centimeter howitzers. Not too great, but well, at least something. And some light field guns, which are woefully unimpressive, because it's like a Pak 40 as an infantry as an artillery gun. We have the artillery battalions attached, which would be these 4 SS Panzer Artillery Regimenter battalions. So this is the entire regiment, and these are the 4 battalions. And they have several batteries of the most different guns: 10.5, another 10.5, and 15 centimeter, which is good. Not, as you can see, a little outranged, but this is not going to be that important here. It packs quite a punch, as artillery should. Some more 10.5 centimeters. And yeah, the rocket artillery is under our direct command, or will be assigned by our command. So as you can see, this force is more than capable of destroying, or being quite the effective fighting force, especially because we haven't even been going to the middle where the other regiment is stated, which is in the Grenadier Regiment 990 is pretty much the same, except that its 2 battalions are the standard battalions with the mortar platoon and the infantry gun platoon, and the engineer and fusilier company, so this would be a bicycle recon company, are attached directly to the regiment, so we can assign them to the battalions if we like. Yeah, that would be that. So you can see we have a massive concentration of artillery over here, of anti-tank guns used as artillery, and another field guns, and our heaviest artillery, the 21 centimeter mortar, and the another 10.5, and Russian 12.2. The M30, actually, is this the one the Russians still use? I guess so. No, that's the D30, sorry, not the M30. Yeah. Oops, I didn't want to dismiss that, but here we are again. So this is like all okay. So it's quite a decent division, 3 regiments. All of them are quite well strengthened and well armed, and we have a whole ton of artillery support. Although, as we have heard, the scenario was started after the initial bombardment is lifting. You can see that all of those guns are. Oh, those are not. Oh, the SS guns are not. That's great. But for example, the regimental and divisional artillery are all out of ammo, so we won't be able to use them for a while. So the next division in the south would be the 12th Infantry Division, 12th Volksgrenadier Division, and the situation with them is not as good. For example, because you see the infantry battalions don't have the attached infantry gun platoon, but rather just some mortars, but heavier mortars. So maybe this is because of the situation in the terrain, because well, that doesn't make any sense, because we are both going in the woods. Both divisions are going in the woods here. So this is, I don't know why, but they have heavy mortars and no infantry guns. The other battalion, which is the other regiment. Yeah, of course, sorry, I mixed something out. This is a battalion where the regimental HQ, the 27th Fusilier Regiment, will probably arrive later this day. the HQ with 9 units, so probably another battalion or 2. So this unit has not yet completely arrived on screen, but is rather still on the march. So as you can see, not too impressive. We don't have infantry guns. I like infantry guns very much because they are quite handy. We have this infantry gun company again, which belongs to the regiment, which has infantry guns and which has a special infantry gun because it's like double the caliber. It's the 150mm howitzer, which is quite okay for bombarding, but its direct fire punch is terrific, really. It destroys enemy fortifications and positions. As well as this division having an engineer company which can build a bridge, which I don't really see would be of any use here, because all of the bridges are defendable, and all of the bridges are built, so you don't have to build a crossing over here. Maybe, what's that? No, you don't need to build a bridge in this scenario, but you can if you want to. And it has another pack platoon, which is not really an anti-tank gun platoon because it just uses the infantry gun. So it's pretty much an infantry gun platoon. So this would be our own force. We will have more forces arriving, which we will analyze when they arrive, because we can hardly see how many. We can only see how many men it has and how many tanks and guns, and that's of no real use because it could be everything. So, as you can see, this is our briefing. I'll read it out. Herr General, our impressive artillery barrage on the enemy lines is lifting now. The Führer orders us forward to victory. Your divisions are to advance west and smash through the lines of the inexperienced American 19th Division. You are to secure Rocherath-Krinkelt, Honsfeld, Hüringen, and Möhringen as quickly as possible and clear a path for rapid advance by the 1st and 12th Panzer Divisions, held for now in reserve. Intelligence reports that 19th Division is green and spread thinly on the ground. But should the opposition prove more resilient than expected, armored units of the 12th SS Panzer will be made available to you. So, these little blimps are our objectives. We have to take them. We have to rid this circle of enemy presence, of enemy in fighting shape presence. So routing and retreating units do not count, and we have to hold them. As you can see, if you click objective, this is the entire objective plan. So you can see they are not active. Those objectives are not yet effective or in order yet. They will start on day 3. And those are exit objectives where you have to move your forces out of the map so you get points. So basically simulating that the units are pushing through. And the Rollbahn. In case it's not clear what a Rollbahn is, the Rollbahn is actually like the lift-off, the runway. It's literally translated as runway, and it pretty much just meant that these roads were the runways on which the German Panzer were to push through the enemy lines and drive on, like a runway for tanks. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So, as we have assessed our superior unit command of a superior unit's intentions and their wish for our forces, and we have assessed our own situation, we can assume that our forces, that especially if reinforced, will be able to successfully assault Elsenborn Ridge and take the objectives. Yeah, so the first phase, the assessment of your own situation, is completed now. I'll just check if the stream is still up. Yes, it is. I hope I'm not the only one watching. So we are at... Wow, I should really get a second monitor. I suppose something like 40 minutes. 44 minutes. Yeah, that's German. Sorry, I'm German. And now we have to assess the enemy situation, which will be not as time consuming. As we can see, the enemy formation is taking up positions on the field before us. We have been informed by our briefing that the 19th Infantry Division is green and not very well trained, and not very well, maybe very well trained, but not experienced. And as this is the beginning of the operation, what was the German name? Not Wacht am Rhein, that's a myth, but it's Herbstnebel, Operation Herbstnebel. So the German Ardennes offensive. We have the we can assume that they are not too well prepared for defenses. Well, they are probably entrenched, but they are not aware of our attack. So reinforcements will trickle in slowly. Yes. Anything else? Yeah. So we can see that the enemy has taken up position on the ridge itself, where in the entrances and to the different tracks and paths. This would be a track, and the roads are blocked by enemy forces. So we are to dislocate them from there. The enemy has quite favorable terrain for defense because an attack through a forest is always, let's just say, a pain in the ass, because we will the communication of our forces will be very difficult. So now we are, and the enemy has several cities and even some minor rivers to hide behind and use as defensive lines. So if I were the Americans, I would use this as the first defensive line, the ridge itself. The heights behind the ridge as a line to postpone the enemy's attack until I have reorganized at this pretty much belt of towns, and this 4 motorized units impassable hardly passable swamp and forest terrain. And if everything fails, I would hide behind this river and pretty much make the Germans pay for it. So I would just say that the enemy forces are not too terrifying now, but quite formidable. They have excellent terrain, and probably as they are Americans, and the Americans in this game and the Americans in World War II were pretty damn keen on fire support. They will have excellent and massive artillery formations. Our great luck is that we have an unholy amount of artillery as well, so this is going to be a slugfest. So we come to phase 3 now, which would be operational planning. And I think I'm going to end the stream now, and I will continue tomorrow, and hope that you enjoyed it. And we will just follow the operational planning in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any suggestions, just comment or message me on Facebook. I should have mentioned at the beginning that this is to make up for my HDD, where I have my podcast saved on, is broken. I don't know why. It should be repairable, but I will only be home on the weekend. So I hope I can fix it until tomorrow and air the episode on Sunday. It is prepared. I don't think I will keep the HDD. I will just try to save all my files from it. So yeah, thumbs pressed, fingers crossed, and I hope I'll be able to air it on the next day. So I hope you enjoyed it, and for the most people from America, I'd say good morning or a good day, and to everyone from Europe, I'd say good night. Have a nice day, sleep tight, or whatever you want. Goodbye.